Recording in progress.
All
right, yeah. Good morning, everybody.
Blacks are running the show.
All right, so we left off.
They're running the show there.
Yeah, so Amalei Ravina, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so today's daf Yud Zayin Maseches Gittin.
Okay.
Shorter daf today. So we got to the two dots. It's actually almost continuing the sugya that we had yesterday. Just to remind you, we're dealing with the Mishnah, right? We have Takana, Fananechta, and Shkach. Thank you so much. And so in essence, a shliach brings it, and he makes a statement that was written and signed in front of me. Fine, that's good. Let's say now there's not maybe in terms of people testifying upon the signatures, and it's not necessarily from the shliach, or it's not two and or there's one on this one and one on that one. It's not the same individual saying fananachta. So then we had different cases. So the final case in the Mishnah was echad aimer fananachta. One person says it was written in front of me, and the other, and then two people say it was written, it was signed before us. So you have one on the writing and two on the signatures. Everyone says kosher. So two dots around, I don't know, 8 lines or so from the top. So Amar Rab Ami, Amar Rab Yechanan, Lo Shanu Ela Shaget Yaitse Mitachas Yad Eid Ksiva. We're talking about over here where the one who says, right, we said there was one person that says it was written in front of me, it's okay. So that person was the shaliach. Because basically, in essence, right, you need to have the writing confirmed and the signing confirmed. So 2 witnesses is sufficient for either one. So you got 2 witnesses on the sign part. And on the writing part, it's the shaliach himself, and therefore we know this, that the shaliach no has because now it's like 2 was on the writing, i.e. the shaliach, right, who was sent, his confirmation is good enough, right? 2 on the signature. But that says a chasima, and you just have one random person who was not set up to be the shaliach says, yes, it was written in front of me, then it's possible. Alma, what do you see over here? Because over now you see, according to this case, because the 2 messengers were the ones who said it was signed before us, and somebody else said it was written. So you have no uncovering. So we had a question earlier: if 2 shlichim come, are they even required to say it was written and signed in front of me? So Rabbi Asi El Miata, but if you say that when 2 shlichim, 2 people are made shliach, or the shlichim, they have to still say it. El Miata Reisha, the Tani Shnayim Fanena Nechtav. 2 people say it was written in front of us. The Echad Amir, one person says Fanenechtav, it was signed before me. Puzzled. Rabbi Yehuda Machshir. So according to this, right, you would have to say that which the Rabbanan say, it must be even talking about a case where even 2 people made the shaliach, because according to this, the 2 shlichim have to say it was written and signed in front of me. So yes, that's exactly. So Zivnim, at one point in time later on, Ashkei to Yosef Kamar Dafilu get Yaitse Mitachas Yedei Eidei Chasima Kash. Later on, it occurred that he was sitting and taught that even if the get was from the Eidei Chasima, right? From the Eidei Chasima, then it's kosher. I.e., there was just one random person. When I say random, meaning non-shliach, one non-shliach person that says it was written before me. So you don't have any sort of testimony based on that. So Alma Ksaver must be, according to this, when he taught later on, Ksaver Shnaim Sheviyu, that if 2 people went ahead and brought it again from Medina Siyam, they do not have to go ahead and say it was written and signed before us. So Rav Asi, El Miatim, according to this, Reisha Deitani Shnaim and the ratio where 2 people said it was written in front of us, and one person testified upon the signatures, then it passes according to Rabbanan. The Rabbi Yehuda machshir, and Rabbi Yehuda is machshir in such a case. So Tama, so Tama the ein haget yaitzim mitachas yishneim is only because it was not two witnesses. Because if there's right, because if there was two witnesses, they don't even have to say it was written and signed before us. Haget yaitzim mitachas yishneim machshir rabbanan. Samarlein, yes, even that case is machshir rabbanan. So according to this, later on he taught that two witnesses, even if they're only on the chasima, not on the ksiva, it's okay. Because once you have two shlichim, you don't really need to say, you taught us the opposite earlier. You taught us that when two shlichim come, they still has to be them say that it was written and signed before us. So he answered, yes, that he shalaita. So he says over here that no, we're talking about over here that this is basically a stake in the ground that can't be moved. I.e., my new limud. This is how I was chayes or whatever I taught before, but this is how I hold that if the get yitzim shneim, then you do not need testimony, right? And we sort of saw that yesterday because the svara was right. If two people come in the Yisayam and say she's divorced, then we believe they're edus. So when two people say we're here to deliver the get, we can assume that it was written inside properly. Fine. Naya Mishnah. The Mishnah on the bottom, first wide line, or 5 lines from the bottom, however, whichever one sounds better to you. Nichtav b'yayim, the nechtam b'yayim. The get was written in one day, or during the day, and signed the same day. Or belayla, v'nechtam belayla, or is written at night and signed the same night, or belayla, or if it was done at night, right? V'nechtam b'yayim, and then signed the following day, i.e., the same halachic day, right? What do you mean time? We'll get to what's described there. We'll actually touch upon that. Well, we'll get to right, but it's only the date.
Right.
Yeah.
Know what time it is.
So if you know that it was, if it was written last night and they signed in the morning, is that okay? So kosher. However, I'm sorry. It dates the same, right? However, well, let's say it was written during the day on Yud Zayin, and then at night they sign it on Yud Ches. Puzzle says the Tanakama, the Rabbanan, it's puzzle. And Rabbi Shimon, machshir. Rabbi Shimon says, no, even though it was written in the morning, but it was dated at night, i.e., the halachic day, machshir. Shahaya Rabbi Shimon, all types of documents that are written during the day and signed at night, they're psulin. Those are pasul chutz me gitei nashim. Except for gitei nashim, those are different, right? Those are not necessarily used for collection. And it's a bigger nafka a sale document or a loan document, between dates, right? To go ahead and collect from, one of his previous, if one is his mishubadim, let's say he sold the land and then subsequently, owed some money. So it depends on what came first. So therefore, we're not as careful by gitei nashim when it comes to if it was what's it called, it was not signed and dated the same day.
Rabbi Shimon go according to 24 hours rather than night.
I'm sorry?
Rabbi Shimon go within 24 hours rather than day.
No, he doesn't. No.
Is that transformation?
But when it comes to Gittin, it can even be written before. It doesn't even have to be 24 hours. It can be before.
So it doesn't matter connection of the day to the night.
Right. Well, so we'll soon see what the machlokes is. What's the importance of day? So let's go. Let's talk about time. So Zok the Gemara. Itmar mipnei ma tiknu zman begittin. Why was there why was there a decree? Why was the Chazal Masakin to go ahead and write the date or the date of the get, or of the date in the get? So Rabbi Yechon Amar Meshum Bas Achaiso. Because the case of Bas Achaiso. What's the case of Bas Achaiso? So Bas Achaiso, right? Let's say the daughter of his sister, right? His niece, which he's allowed to go ahead and marry. So he marries his niece. She commits adultery. All right, they're getting divorced. But let's say he sort of feels bad. I don't want it's my sister's kid after all. I don't want her to be executed, right? So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and when I divorced her, I'll just say I divorced her before the Maisabiyah, right? When she was an Eishasish. So in order to avoid, right, person having Rahmanis, if there was no time on there, right? He can say, oh yeah, I actually gave it to her before she was Mazana, so to spare her life. All right, that's one case. That was Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish Amar, a little more practical, Mishu Peros, because while the husband is married to the woman, so he has, when it comes to Nichsei Malug, right? So she gets, basically she owns the principal, but he gets the profits from the field. Now, or so if it's not dated in time, we're concerned that perhaps the husband will keep, saying, oh, I got married, we got divorced on a later date. So therefore, let's go ahead and put the dates in the divorce documents so we know at what point does he stop allowed to go ahead and taking those profits. So that was Reish Lakish. Now, Reish Lakish, my time Rabbi Yochanan. So Reish Lakish, why didn't you say Mishum Basa Chayso? So he answered Znus Leishkich. It's not common, right? The common Znus, and that's going to be his knees, and this, it's a little far fetched. Therefore, for that, it's not.
Also, it's less frequent than it's not.
Right, yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Right, well, that's the whole thing, right? I'm saying the whole thing, but it's not just the snus; it's the snus of the Abasa Chayso. Yeah. Now, Rabbi Yochanan, my time alone, Reish Lakish, right? Not like Reish Lakish. Ksaver yesh lebal peiros ad shas nesin. He holds that no, he gets the peiros until the shas nesina. So. If you think about, all right, that was when he gave it. So even if it was written earlier, right? So let's say you write a get, and I write a get for on January 1st. Let's date it now, but I only give it February 1st, right? So if you look at the document, the star still says January 1st. So right, so therefore, but even though the document says, but it goes till the Nesina. So once he gives it, he gets all the way till then. So therefore, we're not worried about him taking stuff that wasn't. He wants to go ahead and give it, the time of the writing. So Bishlam of the Reish Lakish, Mishum Hachi Kamachshir. Rabbi Shimon. So I said, according to Reish Lakish. Now Reish Lakish was the second opinion, who says Mishum Peros, right? So Bishlam Reish Lakish Mishum Hachi Machshir Rabbi Shimon. Now Rabbi Shimon say like this. What are you concerned about? You're concerned about the Peros. So you go back and you see at what point was there the Nesina, right? So whenever he gave it, right, that's when he stops. That's when he goes. He can, he stopped collecting, right? So Elul Rabbi Yochanan, right? According to Rabbi Yochanan, right? My timer. So Bishlam the Reish Lakish Rabbi Shimon. So he machshir in this case of Rabbi Shimon because he says it goes from the Shas Nesina. So whenever it was given, she'll bring proof that this is the time it was given, and therefore he's only allowed up to here, and anything after he wasn't allowed to take. El Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yochanan, it says Mishum my time Rabbi Shimon. The machshir. What's the reason why Rabbi Shimon would go ahead and machshir? Another, he says such a get is good. So Rabbi Yochanan, I'll leave it Rabbi Shimon like Kamina. That which I said, in other words, we were answering the question of what's the reason of Znus. That was not the reason. We was not giving the reason of the Mishnah of Rabbi Shimon, who was machshir. What was the reason why the Rabbanan castle? So that was because it's Znus, right? But when it comes to Rabbi Shimon, so Rabbi Shimon, yes, of course he takes Peros into account, right? But we weren't talking to Rabbi Shimon. So according to him, Rabbi Shimon actually holds like that, that there is concern for the Peros. And therefore, but nevertheless, that which he was explaining was not explaining on Rabbi Shimon, he was explaining Rabbi Yochanan. All right, so what's the difference? Now, so let's see. So let's see. That in terms of in terms of Peros, in other words,
Peros should be all kinds of things that the man is responsible to do.
Well, right. So the man, he is the one who really controls the get, right? In other words, he controls the signing and the giving. So if we're concerned, right, that we're not concerned that she's going to say that the get was, let's say, from a long time ago, right? Or, it was more, let's say more recent, right? Because he knows that he he doesn't want to obligate himself and say, oh, I was divorced, 2 years ago. He's going to want to have to make it right that, he controls when he's responsible until. And she can't say a later date, you still owe me, because he's going to go ahead and make sure that he doesn't owe her beyond the date. Right. Right.
Responsibility is going in for both, is responsibility and going out for both. So there should be dates on both. It just, it makes.
Let's say, all right. So, there are, I guess, there are trade-offs in terms of at what point is the, right. No, Mark's asking like this. He's asking that, yes, the ksuba or whatever, what marriage requires you, an exchange. So yes, there is an exchange. He gets her wages, he has to provide for her. So in theory, those items are more or less equal, right? In theory, there's a trade-off, right? There's stuff that's not, there's not monetary stuff. There's
Talking about that, we're talking.
clothing, he has to provide her clothing. No, I understand. No. So Mark is asking, why is the Mishnah need to, or Reish Lakish need to come out to Nichsei Malug, just say the requirements of the ksuba, right? Why aren't we concerned? If you predate it, then, then it says, he says, oh, look, no, we got divorced a year ago. And she's like, oh, no, you just gave it to me yesterday. So therefore, and we're worried about that, right? So it could be that those two, maybe there's a trade-off, or, that it's a fair exchange. But when it comes to Nichsei Malug, that is something which is, separate on top. But I hear the question. It's a good question. So now, Yigal asks, what? So if it comes down to, so what is this machlokes between the two?
Seemed like
Right. So Bish Loma. So all right. Fine. So Bish Loma Rabbi Yochanan Hainu Ika Bein Rabbi Shimon Rabbanan. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan says the Rabbanan are worried about Basa Chayso.
Right.
And now, according to right, but the Rabbanan are not worried about Peiros, right? And therefore, whatever they pass in that case, and Rabbi Shimon would say like this: no, if you go ahead and you have it right dated, she can prove as to when the time that she received it. So therefore, we're not worried about a predate. So therefore, if it was predated, she can just prove when she received, when there was Nesina.
Right.
And then she only at that point was, she can go ahead and get her money back. He can't say, right, they were continuing because she'll prove the point of when she got divorced. So she proves the point she got divorced, then she can go ahead and recoup it. So therefore, go ahead and prove that because he holds on the Shas and the Sina. Ela Reish Lakish, but according to Reish Lakish, Ma'ika Bein Rabbi Shimon li Rabban. According to Reish Lakish, who says that really both, so if that's the case, now both of them could go ahead and just prove the time when it was given. So therefore, prove the time was given. So why would the Rabbi Shimon argue in this case? The answer is Pere de B'Shas Ksiva, the Ad Shas Chasima Ika B'Nayim. The Peiros between the time it was written and the time it was signed. So the Gemara says, you heard the opposite. Name a it's in the Peiros. When do you go ahead and stop? You can go ahead and take back the Peiros. And the woman said you had no right to take the profits from the field. So Rabbi Yochanan Amar Mishas Kasiva. Rabbi Yochanan says from the time of the writing, right? And Reish Lakish Amar Mishas Nesina, and Reish Lakish says Mishas Nesina. But we just said the opposite. We just said, according to Rabbi Yochanan, it was the Shas Nesina, and that's why I wasn't concerned. And Reish Lakish was the one who says Mishas Kasiva. So the Gemara answer is Epoch. Okay, so switch around literally that which was taught. It should be the opposite. That Rabbi Yochanan was the one who says Mishas Nesina, and Reish Lakish was the one who says Mishas Kasiva. So Amar Le Abai Le Rav Yosef Gimel Gittin Psulim. So we had this case earlier, 3 types of get in our psulim. One of them was a get without a date. Now, v'imnises, and if, so he said over there are 3 types of gittin where it really halachically it's puzzle, it's no good. And one of them is if there's no date on it. V'imnises, but let's say she got this get without a date and she married somebody else, right? So if you say it wasn't a get, then she's a married woman. She married someone that had a child. Oh, that child, the Vlad's a mamzer. So we said there, Havlad Kasha. In that case, we'd say, you know what? You didn't put this man in. The child is not a mamzer. Not a big deal. Not a mamzer. So if that's the case, right? If we're going to go ahead and say, you know what, okay, you didn't put this zman in the vlad's kosher, so what point is the takana anyways? If your takana should be a rule, is a rule, and therefore, the vlad's going to be a mamzer. You're going to scare people off for using gittin without a zman. So because good luck finding if that's the rule that no sofer is going to go ahead and write you a get without this man. So therefore, yes, if you happen to know the safras or this and that, and you do it yourself or whatever it is, so you go to the black market and get one done. So fine, it will work. But really, in practical, it'll be very difficult to find an authorized sofer, right, to go ahead and do it. So what about so Gazil Zman Day Ve'avinila? So what? Okay, let's say he finds a sofer. The day everything is written, he goes ahead, he takes it, he's going to go ahead and deliver it to his wife across the street. And meanwhile, he goes to his car and he scratches off the date. All right, scratches off the date. So what do you say about that case? We're not chayshish about people who are deceitful like that. It's not a common occurrence. So Shavua, let's say they just wrote on the document, on the get, which 7-year cycle it was of Shemitah. Okay? So Shavua or Shana or just the year 2022. Chodesh, the month, Shabbos or the week, Mai. What's the halacha there? They didn't put a specific date. They just put a period of time. So I'm like kosher. Says kosher. No, not Yom Shishi. Just the week.
Oh, just a week.
Just the week, right? So right.
Parshas Nasa.
Yeah, during the week of Parshas Nasa. So Amar Lei kosher says kosher. It's kosher. It's very 7 year. You just put it which 7 years it was. You can go ahead and collect. You can miscollect. Fruits. For 7 years, right? So Ma'alei Chameh b'Tekanasam. Okay, so at least they got 7 years. They minimized it to 7 years. You can't, take advantage of more 7 years. You don't say this, but the day itself, right? We don't know what time it was, right? We don't know. Let's say when it came to my Sabia, we know she was witnessed with the man at 10 a.m. and it was dated that day. We don't know if she was given the divorce at 8 a.m. or at 1 p.m. Right? You don't know then. So there's no way to be exact because we don't write the time, right? The time of the day. So what good does the day do then, right? You're going to argue, I don't know what time. So, okay, at least I don't know the day before. So with that logic, that, as long as we know, at least there's some time that's being crossed out, i.e. the day before and the day afterwards. So to will say, when you go ahead and write in the 7-year cycle, you're not pinpointing it, but you can sort of guesstimate as to which 7 years that it occurred. All right, we'll stop here at the bottom. So Mitzvah Hashem.